Hello, everyone. I just want to check the sound quality, if anyone can hear me. Oh, yep, got thumbs up. Awesome. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today for the GuestPoint and eWay webinar. While we wait a few more minutes for everyone to join, we're just going to stick up a quick poll, just a one-question poll for you guys. So for all the operators in the room, just want to get an idea of how you work your payments today. One more minute, and then we'll start. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Sam, and I'll be your host for this session. Before we get started, I'll just go through a couple of housekeeping notes. Today's session will run for approximately 45 minutes, and we'll have 15 minutes at the end for Q&A. So if you do have any questions, feel free to drop them into the Q&A chat, and then we'll address them at the end. So we are joined today by GuestPoint's General Manager, David Soares.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Sam. My name's David, obviously, as Sam said, and I'm the GM at GuestPoint and have been for the last 3 years. I have been heavily involved in the evolution of payments and the introduction and kind of led this project. So I'm excited to be here today to tell you where we're at and where we're moving forward to.
Thanks, David. And we are also joined by eWay's Strategic Growth Manager, Julie Simeonov.
Thank you, Sam. I am Julie. Welcome along, everybody. So thrilled to have you with us this morning. I'm a Strategic Growth Manager here at eWay. We've had the privilege of working with GuestPoint for the last 3 years. This has proven to be a phenomenal journey. So super excited to be spending the next while with you, taking you through payments.
Thanks, Julie. So today we'll be discussing how payments in hospitality have evolved and what operators need to know in 2026. So I'll hand back over to Julie to take us through the presentation.
Thank you so much, Sam. Once again, welcome everybody. What we are covering today, 3 fundamental items that we will be looking at. Number 1, how payments used to work and why that model no longer fits. 2, where payments are today and why operators are feeling the pressure. And 3, the future of payments in hospitality and what operators should focus on next. So to unpack an evolution, we need to take it back to the very beginning, how payments used to work and why that model no longer fits. Let's look at the past when payments were simple. Payments in hospitality were once a small back office task where most transactions happened in person at check-in or check-out. Payment systems were largely separate from bookings. So in essence, simpler guest journeys meant simpler payments. A lot has changed in 20 years. Let's take a step back in time. Cash was king. 70% of consumer transactions were reported in 2007. Staff were writing down or typing card numbers. Manual bookings were the norm. Paper records were everywhere. Chip and pin were our modes of payments back then. We're remembering the clickety-clack machine as well. So fast forwarding to circa now, less than 13% of consumer transactions were reported as cash in 2026. Integrated payment systems are now the norm. Online reservations with secure payments are just expected. Digital reporting and analytics are assumed. Tap and go, mobile wallets, and payment links are the standard payment methods now. A key call out to make is a significant change in technology we've seen over the last 20 years, and why with it we've seen the shift in consumer behavior. Now we are sitting in a highly digital environment, and consumerism has taken a form of low touch, no touch, and a frictionless form. So in summary, bookings have moved online. Payments have moved earlier on in the journey, and card not present transactions have become the norm. As a result of this change of technology and consumer behavior, the old model stopped working. Payments were no longer simple, but they were not yet integrated. So manual card handling didn't scale. Card details stored across multiple systems. More time was spent chasing payments. There was greater exposure to fraud and chargebacks, and has been. Payments are now highly disconnected from the guest journey. So with all we've seen in the past to circa now, where are payments today, and why are operators feeling the pressure? Let's have a look at some shifts we've seen, and there are key ones we want to talk to, 3 of them precisely. Number 1, rapid growth in online and direct bookings. 9 in 10 bookings are now made online, making it one of the top channels for Australian consumers accommodation-wise. Cash is no longer the preferred payment method. Number 2, fraud is a real issue. In accommodation specifically, fraud, identity theft, and chargebacks make up over 40% of reported incidences. Accommodation is also considered a high-risk industry for chargebacks due to prepayments and remote bookings. Anybody from the world can make a booking at your location, and you would not have met this person beforehand. Number 3, guest demand for flexible payment options and frictionless checkout is expected. Nearly 50% of in-person card payments in Australia are now made via mobile wallets. Let's just replay that again. 50% of in-person card payments in Australia are now made via mobile wallets. And guests expect fast checkout, saved cards, deposits, and installments. Together, these forces have made hospitality a high exposure payments environment, where we see a shift where customer experience is the center of everything, and we live in a society of convenience where everything is on 24/7. As a result of these industry shifts, the payments landscape had to change. We are now in a new reality where payments are no longer transactions. They've evolved into this multifaceted body whereby they serve as a risk management function, making sure that we have secure payments traveling from one end to the other end of the guest journey. It's a trust and a brand reputation layer. Customers are expecting to have security with whatever they are doing with you as the operator. It's a driver of operational efficiency and scalability with no more manual handling. An enabler of sustainable revenue growth, allowing fluidity of your cash flows at any point in the guest journey. To the right-hand side of this slide, we also see there are also now stricter compliance requirements, whereby all businesses taking card payments must meet PCI data security standards. Fines, forced audits, and data breaches increasingly hit small businesses, not just big brands. And there's regulatory pressure increasing, i.e. the RBA surcharge reforms, which we'll touch on in a moment. So the key message here is how payments are implemented now directly impacts business outcomes. As a result of the new reality, we've also seen modern payment systems present themselves, like tokenization, which effectively masks credit card details, so you are not handling credit card details in the form of writing them down or even citing them. There's strong customer authentication. So effectively, whenever you're conducting a transaction, you'll get a little text message to your phone. There's liability shift protection in the form of 3DS, whereby the liability shifts from the operators now through to the banks. Real-time monitoring. So all of us at some point may have had a call from the bank saying, hey, was this you transacting on this credit card? It looks like you're here, but your credit card has been transacted from elsewhere in the world. and then built-in compliance, making payment systems meet PCI requirements automatically without extra work by staff. So the key line here is security now happens automatically, not manually. The new reality has payments now touching every stage of the guest journey. So if we have a look at this guest journey, it looks complicated to me. From booking through to post-stay adjustments, payments are occurring at every point, not just at check-in or check-out. Bookings, deposits, pre-arrival checks, post-stay adjustments, you name it. And each step can actually be automated to save time and reduce errors. Integrated payments help keep the whole process smooth for staff and guests. So there are two things we need to call out. We now have consumers looking at safe, secure, frictionless experiences, no touch, seamless, and we have operators looking at supporting these experiences, the two parties to our guest journey. Key line, payments are now a core part of how hospitality businesses operate, and it's an expectation. So as a result of everything we are seeing, a shift to integrated payments, which serve now to help stop fraud, reduce chargebacks, clear, safe payment experiences being provided, and technology giving guests and operators greater peace of mind. This is why integrated payments are no longer optional, they are foundational. So we've looked into the past, we've looked into the present, and with all of this in mind, we need to now think about the future. What do operators need to focus on now for the coming months into the future with what we have seen and witnessed? First and foremost, let's address the hot issue at the moment. The RBA's 2026 surcharge reforms effective 1st of October 2026. We won't spend too much time here, but we can assure you GuestPoint and eWay are working together to ensure a seamless transition to the 1st of October for operators. And in coming weeks, we will be providing key updates to inform, educate, and enable you. But a few things we will actually mention here in the meantime for what the changes mean for you and for the future. From the 1st of October 2026, card surcharges will no longer be allowed for the mentioned payment types. Payment fees will become a business cost, not a checkout add-on. Greater transparency will be provided around card fees and statements for operators. Why this will actually matter going forward is that margin pressures will increase as a result of the absorption of the business costs. Inefficient payment processes will become more expensive for operators. And manual handling and errors will be harder to absorb with the increase of business absorption. So the key point here we need to make is when fees cannot be passed on, efficiency will create the value. Integrated payments are no longer optional. As consumer behavior and payments expectations continue to evolve, two things need to be considered. One, operational efficiency and cash flow certainty. Two, integrated payment experiences across the guest journey. At this point, we'll take a pit stop before we hand over to David to speak to how we can put everything we've spoken to into practice through using the GuestPoint property management system. We will actually conduct a poll. Thank you, Sam.
Thanks, Julie. We'll just give it a couple more minutes for the poll, and then we'll get into David's section.
Excellent. Excellent. Great. Thanks, Julie. A very broad and informative way to speak about the past, the present, and the future of what payments looks like. Obviously exciting to see what the rollout of the RBA announcement has done and how that will affect operators. So looking forward to those updates as they come out. Today, in the next few slides, I'm going to talk about what Julie's spoken about, but how that works in practice with GuestPoint. So obviously, payments in practice is kind of where we're at. So all of these things that Julie's been talking about, obviously strategically, we talk about behind the scenes to make sure that our product is forefront and making sure that you are receiving everything you need to process payments in the most efficient way possible and keeping up with modern trends. So first slide, we're here talking about reducing admin costs across the guest journey. Now, I know Julie spoke of this earlier, but nowadays payments don't happen once. They happen many times through the guest journey. Most people have this picture of one moment in time where the guest is at the front desk tapping a card. Unfortunately, that's history. A single reservation now touches at least five points. So people can pay at booking, require a deposit or a balance. They are using pre-arrival checks. They're adding on things during their stays. If something's changed or something in their workload, they're asking for refunds and adjustments after they leave. So when these steps are manual, three things happen. Your team spends time on admin that doesn't help your guest journey. The introduction of error and awkward conversations obviously occur when there's errors. Cash flow gets delayed while the money you've already earned sits and waits for you to chase it. Integrated payments into GuestPoint take that workload away from you and your team at every touch point. So let's start the journey. So let's look at bookings and deposits. So when a guest books via your website, via an OTA or direct, GuestPoint captures the payment details automatically in the GuestPoint vault. There's no staff keying in cards, no back and forth emails trying to get information, running risk of your card details getting stolen. The reservation is confirmed instantly. Manual errors disappear. The revenue can be secured up front depending on your policy. Your cash flow starts nowadays at the time of booking, not at check-in. So when you're looking at deposits and payment balances, you can create the 30% or $200 deposit on booking, the 50% balance, 7 days prior rule. Everybody has their own policy. So traditionally, these have lived in chase emails or spreadsheets for you to follow up when you remember what your policies are. GuestPoint can collect deposits at the moment of booking. The balance of payments can be scheduled via payment links to transfer the ownership of a transaction back to the guest. Soon we'll also be releasing automated transactions via payment links in our automations tab aligned with your cancellation and booking policies. So this gives you the right amount at the right time for every transaction. So just briefly, let's talk about payment links and guest-initiated transactions and the real value that they are earning day to day. A payment link sends a transaction directly to the guest. They receive it by email or SMS. They click and pay using whatever method they prefer. Because the guest is authenticating the payment, you get, the merchant, full 3DS secure protection. The liability now moves from you, the merchant, to the card issuer. Your team never touches the details manually. It's safer for the property. It's more convenient for the guest and now an expectation. And equally, you can use these traditional methods across multiple facets. So we're now seeing a lot of properties using, a company may have an admin person who's paying multiple accounts, sending the admin person the payment link to pay all of your debtor accounts. So there's a lot of things now that payment links can do, which moves the value and the risk from you back to the card processor. So I guess the bottom line when you're looking at those kind of things is the less chasing you have to do, the less errors you have to do, the more money you get in your bank earlier, and all within your current work policies. Nothing needs to change. So now that we've looked at how do we secure our online booking revenue straight up, let's look at the next step, pre-authorizations. So GuestPoint has built-in pre-authorization functionality. So a couple of ways you can use this. So one thing we always suggest is using the pre-arrival authorization for your protection. Everybody has this moment. The guest arrives. You swipe their card on file and it declines. Now there's that awkward conversation of their card declining at check-in. And you can guarantee it, there's always a queue behind them. So with pre-authorization or with pre-arrival authorizations, you can stop this conversation from happening. So GuestPoint can validate a guest credit card before they arrive at your property. If there's a problem, you can find out in advance, not at the front desk. So that solves problems all at once. It reduces fraud and chargeback exposure by catching bad cards early. It flags potential no-shows, so you can act on them before the room revenue is actually lost. And it lets you secure the incidentals and damages in a pre-authorization amount. So again, no cards are written down, no PCI risk for you, the merchant. No spreadsheets full of details that in today's world you should not be holding. Pre-auths are simple in GuestPoint. It's one button to charge, one button to release, all on the card in file in the GuestPoint vault. So this changes your guest journey from a check-in being a welcome from the traditional a payment negotiation at the desk. So now we've looked at the front end and we've looked at the protection layer there in the middle. So what happens when things change to a booking? And these are often these days. Changes can happen, but integrated payments makes them easy. So the bookings you take today rarely is what actually happens. So from date shifts, guest cancelling, group numbers changing, the question is how much pain do those changes create for you and your team? So GuestPoint handles cancellations, refunds, and adjustments all within the PMS. No switching systems, no separate payment portals, no manual reconciliation. Refunds are processed directly in the original transaction. So this means you're going to definitely transact the right amount to the right card in the same record, giving you transparency. Adjustment to dates, rates, length of stay are all updated in the payment schedule alongside the booking within your PMS. So your numbers in reality will always match. When these adjustments require a top up, like extras, they've used the restaurant, etc., they've checked out early and you want to ensure you're going to get that money. Again, payment links is another opportunity. You can send out during their stay, post their stay, to ensure you are having that full PCI compliance. You can also reclaim money on your pre-auth claimed at this time as people do any damage, etc. So when you're looking at the full journey across deposits, pre-arrivals, incidentals, refunds, GuestPoint can do all that work for you. Now, they're just a couple of examples so as not to bore you across everything that payments can do. But these are real live examples that actually help you grow and maintain your business and protect your bottom line. So GuestPoint does the work so that you can go back to looking after your guests. Thank you.
Thanks so much, David. That was fantastic. So in summary, what operators should be thinking about now and what should you be addressing over the next 12 months? How much time is your team spending on handling payments? Are you still manually chasing deposits and balances? How exposed are you to fraud and chargebacks? Are payments fully connected to your booking system? And does your payment process make it easy for the guest to book? Living in this fully digital and payments centric world and a customer experience focal point to every transaction we have nowadays, the right payment setup will save time, reduce the risk, support the better guest experience, and help your business grow without adding staff. handing back over to Sam.
Thank you so much, Julie and David. I'm just going to stick up one more poll and then we can wrap up. Okay.
Hopefully we've got a lot of questions in the background there that we can run through on specifics.
Great, thank you. So I'll close that poll now. So we have a couple of questions. How specifically does GuestPoint Payments streamline the check-in, check-out process compared to using external EFTPOS terminals?
So great question. A couple of, I guess, multiple ways that can happen depending on your policies and payment processing. So generally we're finding a lot of our operators now are using payment links to get the guest charged prior to arrival. So setting out a payment link, ensuring that they are paid in full. So when people are actually arriving, it's purely, they're using the online check-in form, they're using the payment link, and when they get to the property, they are purely using the pre-authorization mode, or they're just handing out keys and letting guests check in. So there's, again, multiple ways in which you can do it. Again, with a manual EFTPOS machine, you are typing details into your credit card machine, then you're manually typing it into GuestPoint. Simple things can happen, like it's 175.75. I don't know how many times I've gone looking through reconciliations when someone's put in 175.57. So those sort of things with an integrated system don't happen. If you're still charging at the counter for your daily arrivals, you're sending from GuestPoint the actual figure to the EFTPOS machine. So it's an integrated terminal. So you're sending the 175.75 to the terminal. You don't key anything. It pops up on the screen, the guest pays, it auto receipts in your GuestPoint. So again, you're just doing one push button to say, send it to EFTPOS terminal. The system does the rest. I can see a question there about OTAs and virtual credit cards. So this is a big question that we get asked a lot about. So obviously virtual credit cards and OTAs owning the guest journey. Obviously some operators are dead set against, because owning the guest journey is, again, your ability to get repeat bookings, et cetera. Virtual credit cards do have a built-in surcharge that go back to the agent. So obviously when you sign up for a virtual credit card scenario, you do obviously pay that extra 2% to booking.com to use that system. The other negative that we find with those virtual credit cards is you can actually only charge what's on there, and you are still at risk. So if somebody who has booked tonight for tonight on a virtual credit card and that gets disputed, booking.com will just take that money off you. You have no extra protection with a virtual credit card. We've seen a lot of those happening of late, where virtual credit card systems are reversing payments after customers have stayed, because the big boys, if they don't have the money, they're not going to give it to you. So we often see those reverse. So we often encourage people to move away from the virtual credit card. It does not affect your ranking. You are able to get the guest journey directly back to you, really encourages more direct bookings and more ability to add on and whatever. When you get it from booking.com or Expedia, you're getting their booking.com email address, you're getting their details. You don't have any ownership of the customer or the customer's journey.
Thank you. So how long does it typically take to switch from a standalone EFTPOS terminal to an integrated system like GuestPoint?
So we're pretty much plug and play. There is obviously an application process. So to join up, it's similar to a bank. It's all financial. We're paying money from someone's card into your bank account. So integrated systems, we sign you up. You know, you would say 7 days by the time it gets posted to you. Once it gets posted, again, we've pre-configured it. So when it gets to you, we plug it in, we connect it to your Wi-Fi. There's a backup SIM card in it as well. And then it's instant once we connect.
I had a question come in. If a card is put in to the vault, do you hold that card? And is it verified by GuestPoint?
So yes and no to that one. So yes, it gets held in the vault. They will get deleted at expiry. Anything that goes into the vault is not verified as a standalone. The GuestPoint credit card vault outside of GuestPoint Pay is purely somewhere safely that's PCI compliant to hold details. That may or may not be a valid credit card. We run software over it that shows whether it's a credit card, whether it's valid, whether it's that person's, etc. There is no protection in that layer. That layer of protection actually comes from eWay and Global Payments around what that card history is. I guess Julie can probably talk to that a bit better than I, but you know, location, all that sort of stuff is what's done through this 3DS compliance. So, but that's not the GuestPoint credit card vault.
Great. Is there any changes operators need to make to their current workflows when adopting GuestPoint Pay?
So the good thing with, I guess, GuestPoint Pay is it's adaptable to you. So we have set GuestPoint Pay up to be very similar to a traditional payment system. So you still get your money settled each day, the next day or the day after, depending on what you prefer. I guess the main difference that we always like to reiterate to people is that we're not your bank. So if you have to do a refund, you need to have funds in your account to do so. So we don't draw money out of your account. So that's, I guess, the main difference between a traditional. If you're trying to do a $3,000 refund and you haven't taken any money that day, you're not going to be able to refund because we don't have access to your bank account. Again, there's a couple of different ways you can set up your system. So you can have, so we always suggest ticking gross payments. So basically the full amount is paid into your account. So you can see the easy and seamless reconciliation between GuestPoint and eWay. Settlement is done at midnight. So as long as you do your rollover last thing at night or first thing in the morning, you can actually see the figures align perfectly. Then what that means is the fees for those figures will be taken from your bank account. You can choose to go net, which means the fees will be taken out and deposited, which just means you'll need to look at the gross figures when you're doing your balancing, not the figure that drops into your bank account.
Mm-hmm. And what is settlement time for payments made with GuestPoint Pay?
So again, that's in your process, but we can do settlement next day. So we have cut off at midnight and we settle at 8:30 the next morning.
And how does using payment links or tokenized cards help reduce the risk of misunderstandings or contested charges?
Okay, so great question. The big thing about that is, so with a payment link or the GuestPoint booking engine, where the guest is making the booking, with 3DS Secure, you are actually, a guest will use their card details, so they're the initiator. So for example, when you push pay in GuestPoint, you, the merchant, are the initiator. However, when you're using a payment link, it's on a screen. It's like when you do a payment on a website where it sends a code to your app or it sends you a text message depending how you've got yours set up. So when the guest initiates that transaction, there is the bank will see that as a payment made by the guest, initiated by the guest. So therefore, they cannot contest it because they've paid it. So those people that come and stay and then contest later, that is because you've processed it manually. So if you process it, if you type the numbers into your credit card machine, you are at risk because they have not initiated that. So by using a payment link and that pops up, they have to verify it in their bank app or via an SMS, pushes all the protections onto them. You are now scot-free and that money is yours because it's been taken and initiated by the guest, so it cannot be disputed.
Thank you. Were there any other questions from the audience? Feel free to put them in the chat. There's a couple in here. Okay, can you explain again how GuestPoint Pay ensures legitimacy on cards and at what point this happens? If a customer places a booking on the direct booking engine, will the booking be rejected if the card is faulty?
So yes, do you want to talk through 3DS or do you want me to jump in? Go. Okay, so through the booking engine, and so similar to payment links, so when the guest is putting their details in, the system of 3DS basically, there's multiple facets, so it's quite large. So what it does is it checks the normal patterns of your card. So say a guest puts their card in and they're normally in America, and then all of a sudden they put in a code to put in to book at your motel, and yet they're spending big time in America, that card would instantly fraud as a concern. So as a concern, because it's geographically located, it would then instigate higher protections around that card. So that would then force that customer to authorize that through their app or through SMS or however it's done. If that's not authenticated at the time, that card will be automatically declined. If you're using it on the booking engine, again, it's basically looking at all of those cards, history, how it's been used in the past, where it's been used, what kind of patterns it's being used for. Obviously, it's validating that there's money in there. With the booking engine, you can set policies up to pay in full at time of booking. You can set up policies to pay one night, a percentage or an amount on that booking. That will be taken instantly and put into your GuestPoint and receipted. You'll see the receipt in there and emailed back to the guest of their payment. Those policies are all set up within, but all of that protection is done. Again, that creates a guest initiated transaction. As long as the guest is doing all the heavy lifting and using their bank apps or SMSs to authenticate that, it's completely valid. Anything that is deemed as invalid will automatically deny and the booking will not go through, as we do that as part of the initial step of the process.
And obviously, you know, things happen from time to time and you may have to enter in manually. So can you use the EFTPOS terminals to do a manual transaction outside GuestPoints?
Yeah, so we've got a few customers that use basically the non-residential account. So for example, I'll just use an example where somebody's got a fridge in the reception and they want to sell cans of Coke. So you can do it two ways. You can just put it in the non-res account and send it across to the machine. We've got other customers. So there is one step involved in, so obviously when you're buying an integrated terminal or you're using an integrated terminal, it's built to seamlessly impact with your GuestPoint. So you need to actually put it into standalone mode to do those transactions. So it's still doable, but obviously the value of having an integrated system is to make sure there's no errors. You just need to remember when you're using it in standalone mode and it's not in GuestPoint, then your auto reconciliations between the two products won't match because you've put a $3 can of Coke through, you're now going to be $3 out if it's not in GuestPoint. So we find most people are using non-residential accounts, which again, we can teach anybody how to use. They'll have a list in there, they'll pick up a can of Coke and send it straight across to the EFTPOS machine. Again, keeping it integrated and keeping it balanced, but standalone mode is absolutely available.
Great. Okay, so that seems to be all the questions. Thank you very much for joining today's session. Thank you, David and Julie. If you have any other questions, feel free to email info@guestpoint.com and we'll get in touch.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Sam. It's been great to be here today. I hope everybody
Sam.
enjoyed today. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Julie. It's been wonderful working
Thank you,
with
David,
you.
likewise.
So
Thank
3
you,
years of
Julie.
heaven.
And more to come.
Yes.
Thank you,
Thanks, guys.
everybody.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.